Deep beneath the icy surface of Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, something stirred. For years, scientists had speculated about what might lie hidden under the thick layer of ice that covered the moon's surface. Some believed there could be liquid oceans teeming with microbial life. Others dreamed of finding evidence of ancient civilizations long forgotten by time. But no one, not even Dr. Laura Bennett, the lead archaeologist on the mission, expected to find what her team stumbled upon during their latest expedition. It all began with a routine drilling operation. The team had been working tirelessly for months, using advanced robotic drills to penetrate the frozen crust. Their goal was simple: gather samples from the suspected ocean below and analyze them for signs of life. What they found instead was far beyond anything they could have imagined. As the drill broke through a particularly dense section of ice, it revealed not water, but metal, shiny, corroded, and unmistakably artificial metal. At first, Laura thought it was just debris from some old Earth probe or satellite that had crashed into Europa decades ago. That theory quickly fell apart when the cameras attached to the drill sent back images of what appeared to be part of a massive structure. It wasn't just a random piece of junk. It looked like the hull of a ship. And not just any ship. It was enormous, easily dwarfing anything humanity had ever built. Its design was strange, almost organic, as if it had grown rather than been constructed. Curved surfaces blended seamlessly into sharp edges, giving it an otherworldly appearance. Laura's heart raced as she studied the footage in the cramped control room aboard their research vessel, the Odyssey. "This can't be real," she muttered under her breath, though excitement bubbled just beneath the surface. She turned to her assistant, Sam, who was sitting next to her, equally mesmerized by the screen. "Do you see this? It's alien." Sam nodded slowly, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Yeah, I see it, but how is this possible? If it's really alien, why hasn't anyone noticed it before now?" That was the question everyone wanted answered. Europa had been explored extensively over the past century, both remotely and via manned missions. How had such a colossal object remained undetected for so long? Laura didn't have an answer yet, but she knew one thing for certain. This discovery would change everything. Over the next few days, the team worked around the clock to uncover more of the mysterious artifact. Using remote-controlled drones equipped with high-powered lasers, they carefully melted away layers of ice until the full scale of the structure became clear. It wasn't just one ship, it was an entire fleet. Dozens of vessels were buried side by side, arranged in perfect rows as if docked in some vast underground harbor. Each ship was slightly different in size and shape, but all shared the same eerie biomechanical aesthetic. News of the find spread quickly, reaching Earth within hours thanks to the instantaneous communication systems available in the 23rd century. Back home, reactions were mixed. Some hailed it as the greatest archaeological discovery in human history, while others dismissed it as overhyped nonsense. Among the skeptics was Ryan Mitchell, a senior engineer at NASA who specialized in spacecraft design. When he saw the initial reports, his first reaction was laughter. "It's garbage," he said bluntly during a meeting with his colleagues. "Look at it. Half of those ships are falling apart. Even if they're alien, they're clearly outdated. We've got better tech here on Earth." Ryan wasn't alone in his opinion. Many experts agreed that the fleet, which came to be known as the Europa relics, held little practical value. The materials used in their construction seemed inferior to modern alloys, and early scans suggested their propulsion systems relied on principles humanity had already surpassed centuries ago. To most people, the relics were nothing more than curiosities, a relic of a failed alien civilization, perhaps, or remnants of some ancient war. But Laura refused to give up so easily. She had spent her entire career searching for answers to humanity's biggest questions. Are we alone? Where did we come from? What else is out there? This fleet represented her best chance yet to find those answers. So, despite the skepticism, she pushed for further investigation. With support from a handful of sympathetic scientists and politicians, she managed to secure funding for a follow-up mission. The new expedition would focus on exploring the interior of one of the larger ships, which the team had dubbed the Leviathan. Laura handpicked a small group of specialists to join her, including Alex Carter, a skilled pilot with a knack for getting out of tight spots, Mia Rodriguez, a robotics expert whose inventions often bordered on genius, and Daniel Brooks, a historian, with a deep fascination for ancient cultures. Together, they prepared for what promised to be the most challenging and potentially rewarding mission of their lives. As the team descended onto Europa's surface once again, anticipation hung heavy in the air. None of them knew exactly what they would find inside the Leviathan, but they were determined to uncover its secrets. Little did they realize that their journey was about to take a turn none of them could have predicted. Inside the ship, the atmosphere was cold and damp, the air thick with the scent of rust and decay. Strange symbols etched into the walls glowed faintly in response to their presence, casting eerie shadows across the metallic corridors. Every step felt like walking through the veins of some giant sleeping creature. Despite the unsettling environment, Laura couldn't help but marvel at the craftsmanship. Whoever, or whatever, had built these ships possessed knowledge and skills far beyond anything humanity had achieved. Their exploration took them deeper into the bowels of the Leviathan, where they discovered rooms filled with dormant machinery and consoles covered in dust. It was Mia who made the first breakthrough. While examining a particularly intricate panel, she accidentally triggered a sequence that brought the ship to life. Lights flickered on overhead, bathing the corridor in a soft pulsating glow. Holographic displays sprang to life, projecting streams of data in an unfamiliar script. At the same time, small drones activated, hovering silently around the group as if assessing their intentions. For a moment, everyone froze, unsure of what to do next. Then, a voice echoed through the ship, not spoken aloud, but transmitted directly into their minds. It was calm and measured, carrying an aura of authority. "Welcome," it said. "I am Aegis. I have awaited your arrival." A collective gasp rippled through the group. Laura exchanged stunned glances with her teammates before managing to stammer out a response. "Who or what are you?" she asked. "I am the custodian of this fleet," Aegis replied, "created to protect and preserve the legacy of my creators. You are not the first to awaken me, nor will you be the last." Laura's mind raced. Who were Aegis's creators? Why had they left this fleet behind? And what did it mean for humanity? These questions swirled in her head, but she knew one thing for sure. This discovery was far greater than anyone had anticipated. The Europa. Relics weren't just relics, they were keys to unlocking mysteries that spanned galaxies, and humanity was only beginning to scratch the surface. Back on Earth, news of the Europa fleet spread like wildfire. The discovery had captured the world's imagination, sparking debates in scientific communities, government offices, and living rooms alike. For some, it was a moment of awe-inspiring wonder, the idea that humanity might finally have tangible proof of extraterrestrial life. For others, it was an opportunity to push forward with new technologies and explore the unknown. But not everyone shared this enthusiasm. Ryan Mitchell sat in his office at NASA headquarters, staring at the live feed from Europa on his computer screen. He leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, his expression a mix of skepticism and annoyance. To him, the so-called Europa relics were nothing more than overhyped junk. Sure, they looked impressive in photos, but Ryan had spent years designing cutting-edge spacecraft, and he knew what real innovation looked like. These alien ships? They were clunky, outdated, and falling apart. What possible use could humanity have for them? Waste of time, he muttered under his breath as he scrolled through the latest reports. His colleague, Emily Dawson, stood nearby, leaning against the doorway with her arms folded. Unlike Ryan, Emily wasn't so quick to dismiss the relics. A military strategist by trade, she saw potential where others saw rust. "You're being short-sighted, Ryan," Emily said, her tone sharp but calm. "Even if these ships are old, we can still learn from them. Reverse engineer their tech, maybe there's something we haven't thought of yet." Ryan snorted. "Reverse engineer what? Look at them, Emily. They're falling apart. They're Engines look like they run on steam power compared to our fusion drives. We've got better weapon systems, faster computers, and more efficient designs. Why waste resources trying to fix space trash when we could be building something better ourselves? Emily stepped into the room, closing the door behind her. She moved closer to Ryan's desk, her eyes narrowing slightly. Because we don't know what else is out there. You think we're alone in the universe? Fine. But even if we are, someone, or something, built those ships. That means they had knowledge, technology, maybe even enemies. If we ignore this, we're leaving ourselves vulnerable. Ryan rolled his eyes. Vulnerable to what? Aliens? Come on, Emily. Even if there are other civilizations out there, they're probably light years away. And if they do show up, you really think these rust buckets are going to save us? It's not about saving us right now, Emily shot back. It's about preparing for the future. Think about it. Whoever built those ships left them behind for a reason. Maybe they were running from something, or maybe they were hiding. Either way, we need to figure out why. Ignoring them because they don't look shiny enough is reckless. The argument went on for several minutes, neither side willing to budge. Ryan was stubborn, convinced that focusing on the relics would only slow down human progress. Emily, on the other hand, was determined to make the case for further exploration. While they argued, Dr. Laura Bennett's face appeared on the large monitor mounted on the wall. Her team had just sent another update from Europa, and NASA leadership wanted input on how to proceed. Laura's expression was a mixture of excitement and exhaustion. Behind her, footage played of the interior of the Leviathan, showing glowing panels, strange symbols, and dormant machinery. We've made significant progress, she began, her voice steady, despite the fatigue evident in her eyes. Aegis, the AI we encountered, has been cooperative, though communication is still limited. It's clear that this fleet was designed for combat but also for survival. There are hints of advanced systems we don't fully understand yet. Ryan interrupted before she could finish. Combat? Survival? Sounds like a lot of guesswork. To me. Have you actually found anything useful, or are we just chasing shadows? Laura frowned, clearly irritated by his dismissive tone. Useful is subjective, Ryan. What we've found so far suggests that these ships were capable of interstellar travel long before humans even existed. Their power sources are unlike anything we've seen, and their structural integrity, despite the corrosion, is remarkable. If we can adapt their technology, it could revolutionize space travel. And if we can't, Ryan countered, what then? We spend billions trying to fix something that might not even work, all while falling behind in areas we already excel at? No thanks. Emily stepped in before the conversation could escalate further. Look, arguing isn't going to solve anything. Whether you like it or not, Ryan, this fleet exists, and ignoring it won't make it go away. The question is, what do we do with it? Do we let fear of failure stop us from exploring one of the greatest mysteries humanity has ever encountered? Or do we take the risk and see where it leads? The room fell silent as everyone considered her words. Finally, the director of the project, Dr. Harold Klein, spoke up. A tall man with graying hair and a no-nonsense demeanor, he had the final say in whether the mission would continue. Dr. Bennett, he said, addressing Laura directly, how confident are you that this fleet holds value beyond its historical significance? Laura hesitated for a moment, choosing her words carefully. I can't guarantee anything, Dr. Klein, but based on what we've uncovered so far, I believe the potential benefits outweigh the risks. This isn't just about studying ancient artifacts. It's about understanding the capabilities of a civilization that may have surpassed us in ways we can't yet comprehend. If we walk away now, we'll never know what we missed. Harold nodded slowly, his expression thoughtful. After a brief pause, he turned to the rest of the group. All right, here's what we're going to do. We'll approve additional funding for a secondary expedition, but with conditions. Dr. Bennett, your team will focus on practical applications. If you can demonstrate that these ships hold tangible value, whether it's in terms of technology, defense, or otherwise, we'll expand the operation. If not, he let the sentence trail off, leaving the implication hanging in the air. Ryan sighed audibly, shaking his head in frustration. Emily, however, allowed herself a small smile. It wasn't a full victory, but it was enough to keep the project alive. For now. As the meeting adjourned, Emily lingered behind, watching Ryan gather his things. "You know," she said casually, "you might want to reconsider your stance on this. You're smart, Ryan. One of the best engineers we've got. Imagine what you could accomplish if you applied that brain of yours to figuring out how these ships work instead of tearing them down." Ryan glanced at her, his expression unreadable. For a moment he seemed to consider her words. Then he shrugged and walked out without saying a word. Meanwhile, aboard the Odyssey, Laura and her team continued their work on Europa. The activation of the Leviathan had been both exhilarating and terrifying. Aegis remained enigmatic, offering cryptic warnings about the void and those who watch. Though Laura didn't fully understand the implications, she couldn't shake the feeling that the ship, and perhaps the entire fleet, had been left behind for a reason. Alex Carter joined her in the makeshift lab they'd set up inside the relic. He carried a tray of tools and spare parts, setting them down on the table with a clatter. "So what's next?" he asked, his tone light but curious. Alex had always been the optimist of the group, the kind of person who saw possibilities where others saw problems. Laura smiled faintly. "Next, we try to communicate with Aegis more effectively. If we can bridge the language gap, maybe we'll get some answers. In the meantime, Mia thinks she's close to deciphering the control systems. If she succeeds, we might be able to test the ship's functionality." Alex raised an eyebrow. "Test it? As in fly it? As in see if it still works," Laura clarified. "If we can get the engines online, it could tell us a lot about the ship's capabilities. Of course, that's assuming we don't blow ourselves up in the process." "Well, that's comforting," Alex joked, earning a chuckle from Laura. Despite the tension of the situation, moments like these reminded her why she enjoyed working with her team. They were resourceful, resilient, and, most importantly, willing to take risks. Over the next few days, progress was slow but steady. Mia worked tirelessly to decode the alien language, cross-referencing the symbols with known linguistic patterns. Daniel scoured the ship's archives, piecing together fragments of history from the holographic displays. And Laura focused on establishing a rapport with Aegis, hoping to gain its trust. One evening, as the team gathered for dinner in the cramped mess hall, Mia burst in with a triumphant grin. "I did it," she exclaimed, holding up a tablet. "I cracked part of the code. I think I can interface with the navigation system now." The announcement sparked a flurry of excitement. Laura quickly organized a plan to test Mia's breakthrough. Early the following morning, they returned to the Leviathan, armed with newfound hope and determination. As Mia connected her device to the main console, the ship hummed to life once again, its lights flickering rhythmically as if responding to her presence. "Okay," Mia said nervously, her fingers flying across the keyboard. "Let's see if this thing can move." For a tense moment, nothing happened. Then, with a low rumble, the ship shifted slightly beneath their feet. Alarms blared briefly before falling silent, replaced by a soft, melodic tone that echoed through the corridors. On the central display, a map materialized, a star chart unlike any they'd seen before. Laura stared at the screen, her heart pounding. This changes every time." The next phase of the mission began with a sense of cautious optimism. Laura and her team knew they were stepping into uncharted territory, but the breakthroughs they'd achieved so far gave them hope. With Mia's successful decoding of part of the alien language and the partial activation of the Leviathan, it was time to push further. The ship had shown signs of life, literally humming with energy, but its full capabilities remained a mystery. To unlock those secrets, Laura decided to expand the crew. She reached out to NASA for additional personnel, specifically requesting individuals who could handle the challenges ahead. Within days, reinforcements arrived aboard the Odyssey. Among them was Dr. Marcus Lane, a linguist with expertise in deciphering ancient scripts, and Rachel Kim, an astrophysicist whose knowledge of celestial mechanics would prove invaluable. when navigating star charts. Laura also handpicked 2 engineers, Ethan Cole and Zoe Park, to assist Mia in understanding the ship's systems. Each member brought unique skills to the table, and Laura hoped their combined efforts would yield results faster than anyone expected. Once assembled, the expanded team returned to the Leviathan. The massive ship loomed over them like a sleeping giant, its curved surfaces gleaming faintly under Europa's dim light. As they stepped inside, the eerie glow of the corridors greeted them once again. Strange symbols lined the walls, pulsating, softly as if alive. Every step felt surreal, as though they were walking through the veins of some colossal creature. Despite the unsettling atmosphere, the team pressed on, driven by curiosity and determination. Their first task was to map the interior of the ship. Daniel Brooks led this effort, using drones equipped with scanning technology to create a 3D model. The process revealed a labyrinthine structure filled with rooms of varying sizes and purposes. Some chambers contained rows of pods resembling hibernation units, while others housed consoles covered in intricate patterns. One particularly large room appeared to be a command center, dominated by a massive holographic display suspended in midair. It was clear that the Leviathan was designed not just for travel but for war and survival. While Daniel worked on mapping, Mia and her engineering team focused on the ship's core systems. They set up temporary workstations near the main control panel, where Mia had previously interfaced with the navigation system. Ethan and Zoe pored over schematics generated by the ship itself, trying to make sense of its internal mechanisms. At first glance, the design seemed chaotic, a mix of organic shapes and mechanical components, but closer inspection revealed a logical flow. Everything was interconnected, forming a complex network powered by an unknown energy source. Laura spent much of her time communicating with Aegis, the AI custodian of the fleet. Though their conversations were still limited, she made steady progress in building trust. Aegis spoke in riddles at times, referring to the void and those who watch, but Laura sensed there was more beneath the surface. She asked direct questions about the ship's origins, its creators, and its purpose. Aegis responded cryptically, hinting at a long-forgotten conflict and the need to protect something, or someone, from an unspecified threat. "Who are those who watch?" Laura asked during one session. Her voice echoed slightly in the quiet chamber, the only sound besides the soft hum of the ship. "They are the hunters," Aegis replied after a pause. Its tone was calm but carried an undertone of warning. "They seek what remains hidden. You must prepare." "Prepare for what?" Laura pressed, frustration creeping into her voice. "If there's danger coming, we need to know." "The truth will reveal itself in time," Aegis said simply. Then, without further explanation, it went silent. Frustrated but undeterred, Laura relayed the exchange to the rest of the team. Alex listened intently, his brow furrowed. "Sounds like Aegis is holding back information," he said. "Maybe it doesn't trust us yet, or maybe it's programmed to keep certain things secret," Mia suggested. "Either way, we can't rely on it to tell us everything. We'll have to figure it out ourselves." As the days passed, the team grew more confident in their ability to navigate and interact with the Leviathan. They discovered that many of the ship's functions could be accessed through touch-sensitive panels embedded in the walls. These panels displayed information in the same alien script they'd been studying, but thanks to Marcus Lane's linguistic expertise, they were able to translate key phrases. Slowly but surely, the ship's secrets began to unfold. One of the most significant discoveries came when Rachel analyzed the star chart projected in the command center. Unlike Earth-based maps, which focused primarily on nearby stars, this chart depicted vast regions of space spanning multiple galaxies. Certain points glowed brighter than others, suggesting areas of importance. Rachel theorized that these might represent locations visited or targeted by the fleet's creators. "This isn't just a random map," Rachel explained during a group meeting. "It's a record of their travels. Look here." She pointed to a cluster of glowing dots near the edge of the chart. "These coordinates match the position of a black hole we've observed from Earth, and these She gestured to another section. I could indicate resource-rich planets or even colonies. Laura nodded thoughtfully. If we can decode these coordinates, we might be able to trace their route. That could give us clues about who they were and why they left this fleet behind. Excited by the possibility, the team redoubled their efforts. Meanwhile, Ethan and Zoe made a startling discovery deep within the ship's engineering bay. Hidden behind a sealed door was what appeared to be a power core unlike anything humanity had ever seen. The core pulsed with a faint blue light, radiating heat despite being buried under layers of ice for millennia. Initial scans suggested it operated on principles of quantum entanglement, harnessing energy from parallel dimensions. This is incredible, Zoe whispered, her eyes wide with wonder. If we can replicate this technology, it could revolutionize everything. Energy production, propulsion, communications. It's a game changer. But how does it work? Ethan asked, his tone skeptical. We don't even understand half of what we're looking at. That's why we're here, Zoe replied with a grin, to figure it out. Despite the excitement of their discoveries, tensions began to rise among the crew. Spending weeks cooped up inside an alien ship took its toll, and the constant pressure to deliver results added to the strain. Ryan Mitchell's earlier criticisms echoed in their minds, reminding them of the stakes. If they failed to prove the fleet's value, the project would likely be shut down, leaving countless questions unanswered. Laura did her best to keep morale high, encouraging open communication and teamwork. She often joined Alex on walks through the ship's corridors, sharing her thoughts and listening to his perspective. Alex had a way of seeing the bigger picture, focusing on the potential rather than the obstacles. His optimism was contagious, helping to lift spirits when doubt crept in. You know, Alex said one evening as they stood in the command center, gazing at the glowing star chart, this feels like the start of something big, like we're standing on the edge of a new era for humanity. Laura smiled faintly. I hope you're right, but sometimes I wonder if we're ready for it. What happens if we find something we can't handle? We'll cross that bridge when we come to it, Alex replied confidently. For now, let's focus on what we can do. That's all any of us can ask for. Unbeknownst to them, however, the ship's awakening had triggered a chain reaction far beyond their control. Somewhere in the depths of space, signals emitted by the Leviathan reached distant ears, or rather sensors. Entities that had long lain dormant stirred, drawn by the faint pulse of activity emanating from Europa. They were not friendly, nor were they curious. They were predators, and they had found their prey. Back on Earth, news of the team's progress sparked renewed interest and debate. Public opinion swung wildly between awe and skepticism, with media outlets amplifying every detail of the mission. Scientists, politicians, and conspiracy theorists weighed in, each offering their own interpretation of events. Amid the chaos, Emily Dawson watched closely, her instincts telling her that something bigger was on the horizon. And somewhere aboard the Leviathan, Aegis continued its silent vigil, waiting for the moment when humanity would truly understand the weight of what it had uncovered. The stage was set, for triumph, for disaster, and for the dawn of a new chapter in human history. Deep inside the Leviathan, the team worked tirelessly to unravel its mysteries. Every discovery brought new questions, and every answer seemed to lead to even greater unknowns. The ship's organic design continued to baffle them. It wasn't just metal and wires, it felt alive. Its walls pulsed faintly with energy, and the symbols etched into its surfaces glowed brighter as the crew interacted with the ship's systems. Laura had begun to think of the Leviathan, not as a machine but as a living entity, one that responded cautiously to their presence. One evening, Mia and Zoe made a breakthrough in the engineering bay. After days of studying the strange core, they managed to activate a diagnostic sequence. The core hummed louder, its blue light intensifying until it illuminated the entire chamber. Data streamed across nearby panels in alien script, but Marcus Lane quickly translated key phrases. It's saying something about energy flow and harmonic resonance, he explained, his voice tinged with excitement. I think we've unlocked a self-repair function. As if on cue, parts of the ship began to shift and realign. Panels sealed themselves, cracks in the hull disappeared, and dormant systems sprang to life. Lights flickered on throughout the corridors, revealing rooms and hallways that had been shrouded in darkness. The ship seemed to be healing itself, shedding centuries of decay and damage. For the first time since arriving, the team realized they were standing aboard a fully functional vessel. "This changes everything," Laura said, her eyes wide with wonder. "If we can figure out how this works, we might be able to restore the entire fleet." But their celebration was short-lived. Moments later, alarms blared throughout the ship, startling everyone. Red warning lights flashed overhead, casting an ominous glow over the corridors. Aegis's voice echoed through the chambers once again, calm but urgent. "Intrusion detected. Prepare for containment." "What does that mean?" Alex asked, his tone tense. He glanced at Laura, who looked equally confused. Before anyone could respond, the ship's defenses activated. Drones that had been lying dormant suddenly came to life, zipping through the air with precision. They positioned themselves around the crew, forming a protective perimeter. At the same time, sections of the floor retracted to reveal hidden weapon turrets, their barrels gleaming ominously. "Containment against what?" Rachel demanded, her voice rising. She grabbed her tablet and began scanning for external threats, but all readings indicated no immediate danger outside the ship. "It must be a malfunction," Ethan suggested nervously. "Maybe activating the core triggered some kind of automated response." Laura shook her head. "No, this is deliberate. Aegis wouldn't do this unless there was a reason." As if to confirm her suspicion, the holographic display in the command center lit up, showing a series of images. They depicted shadowy figures moving through space, silhouettes of ships unlike anything humanity had ever seen. The designs were jagged and insectoid, exuding a sense of menace. Then abruptly the display shifted to show Europa's surface. A red dot blinked near the Odyssey, their research vessel parked several kilometers away. "They're here," Daniel whispered, his face pale. "Whoever, or whatever, they are, they've found us." Panic rippled through the group, but Laura forced herself to stay calm. "Everyone focus, we need to figure out what's happening and how to respond." She turned to Aegis, speaking clearly despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "Aegis, explain. Who are these intruders?" "The Krill," Aegis replied. Its tone was devoid of emotion, but the weight of its words sent a chill down everyone's spines. "They seek what you now possess. You must defend or perish." "The Krill?" Laura repeated, her mind racing. The name meant nothing to her, but Aegis's warning left little room for doubt. Whoever, or whatever, the Krill were, they posed a serious threat. "We need to get back to the Odyssey," Rachel said urgently. "If those things are targeting our ship, we have to warn the others." Alex nodded in agreement. "I'll prep the shuttle. It's risky, but we can make it if we move fast." "No," Laura interjected firmly. "We don't know what's waiting for us out there. If the Krill are as dangerous as Aegis says, leaving the Leviathan could be suicide. We need to stay put and use its defenses." "But what about the crew on the Odyssey?" Zoe asked, her voice trembling. "We can't just abandon them." "I'm not suggesting we do," Laura replied. She turned to Aegis again. "Can you communicate with the Odyssey? Send them a warning?" Aegis paused before responding. "Limited. Communication possible. Initiating transmission." While Aegis worked, the team prepared for the worst. Mia and Ethan monitored the ship's systems, ensuring the weapons were ready to fire if needed. Rachel kept a close eye on the sensors, tracking any movement near Europa's surface. Meanwhile, Alex volunteered to pilot the Leviathan, if necessary, poring over the controls in the command center. Minutes passed like hours. Finally, Aegis spoke again. "Transmission complete. The Odyssey acknowledges. Evacuation protocols initiated." Relief washed over the group, though it was short-lived. The red dot on the display moved closer, accompanied by several smaller blips. Whatever the Krill were, they weren't wasting time. "They're coming," Daniel said grimly, "and they're bringing reinforcements." Laura clenched her fists. her mind racing. All right, listen up. We don't know much about the Krill, but we know one thing. They want this ship. That makes them our enemy. We've got the advantage here. We're inside the Leviathan. Let's use it. Alex stepped forward, his expression resolute. What's the plan? For now, we hold our ground, Laura answered. Aegis, can you deploy the drones to intercept the attackers? Affirmative, Aegis replied. Instantly, the drones surged outward, disappearing into the icy tunnels leading to Europa's surface. On the holographic display, tiny green dots representing the drones converged on the approaching red blips. Tension filled the command center as the two forces clashed. The drones moved with incredible speed and precision, firing beams of energy that obliterated several of the smaller Krill vessels. But the larger ships proved more resilient, shrugging off attacks and retaliating with devastating force. Explosions rocked the ice above, sending shockwaves through the tunnels. They're breaking through, Rachel shouted, pointing at the display. One of the red dots had breached the outer perimeter and was heading straight for the Leviathan. Seal the entrances, Laura ordered. Ethan and Zoe rushed to comply, triggering mechanisms that caused massive blast doors to slam shut behind them. The sound echoed through the ship, a stark reminder of the danger closing in. Despite their efforts, the Krill were relentless. Within minutes, the invaders reached the ship's exterior, attempting to breach its hull. The team watched helplessly as claw-like appendages tore at the metal, sparks flying as they tried to force their way inside. Aegis, status report, Laura demanded. Hull integrity compromised in Sector 7, Aegis responded, initiating countermeasures. Suddenly, the walls of the ship vibrated as powerful shockwaves rippled outward. The Krill's attempts to penetrate the hull ceased momentarily, giving the team a brief reprieve. Laura took the opportunity to regroup. We can't keep this up forever, she said grimly. If they break through, we're done for. We need a way to fight back. Mia raised her hand hesitantly. There's something I haven't told you yet. While working on the power core, I noticed a secondary system. It looks like a weapon, a big one, but activating it could destabilize the core. You didn't think to mention this sooner? Ethan snapped, his frustration boiling over. I wasn't sure it would work, Mia shot back defensively. Besides, we didn't have a reason to use it until now. Laura held up a hand to silence the argument. Where is it? In the lower levels, Mia replied. Near the engine room. Then that's where we're going, Laura decided. Alex, you're with me. Everyone else, stay here and monitor the situation. If the Krill breach the hull, fall back to the command center and seal yourselves in. Understood? The team nodded, though fear was evident on their faces. Laura and Alex grabbed flashlights and headed toward the engine room, navigating the dimly lit corridors with caution. The ship groaned around them, its defenses struggling to hold back the relentless assault. When they reached the designated area, Mia directed them to a large console marked with unfamiliar symbols. This is it, she said breathlessly. Activating. It will channel the core's energy into a concentrated beam. It should wipe out anything within range, but like I said, it's risky. Do it, Laura said without hesitation. We don't have a choice. Mia hesitated for a moment, then began inputting commands. The console lit up, and a low hum filled the room as energy surged through the system. Outside, the Krill intensified, their attack sensing the buildup of power. Get back, Alex yelled, pulling Laura and Mia away from the console just as the weapon fired. A brilliant flash of light erupted from the Leviathan, cutting through the ice and illuminating the surrounding area. When the light faded, the red dots on the display were gone. For a moment, silence reigned. Then, slowly, cheers erupted from the command center as the team realized they'd won, for now. But as Laura stared at the empty display, she couldn't shake the feeling that this victory was only temporary. The Krill had found them once. What was stopping them from coming back, and more importantly, what else did Aegis know that it hadn't told them yet? The victory over the Krill felt hollow. Though the Leviathan's weapon had driven them back, The crew knew it was only a matter of time before they returned. The alien ships had been relentless in their attack, and the ease with which they located Europa suggested they were far from alone. Laura couldn't shake the feeling that humanity had stumbled into something much larger and far more dangerous than anyone could have anticipated. Back in the command center, the team gathered to assess the damage. The ship's hull had been weakened in several places, but Aegis assured them the self-repair systems were already at work. Still, the encounter left everyone shaken. Rachel stared at the holographic display, her brow furrowed as she studied the now empty space where the krill had been moments earlier. "They're gone," she said softly, almost to herself. "But for how long? If they can find us once, they'll do it again. And next time they might bring more," Daniel added grimly. His usual enthusiasm for history and discovery had dimmed, replaced by a wary pragmatism. "We need to figure out who or what they are. Why are they after this fleet?" Laura nodded, her expression serious. "Aegis mentioned the Void and those who watch. Now we know the krill are involved somehow, but why do they want these ships so badly?" Before anyone could respond, Ethan spoke up, his tone laced with frustration. "Maybe we're asking the wrong questions. Instead of worrying about why they're here, shouldn't we focus on how to stop them? We barely survived this time. What happens if they come back with bigger ships or better weapons?" "He's right," Alex agreed. "We got lucky today, but luck doesn't win wars. If we're going to stand a chance, we need to understand what we're dealing with, and fast." Mia hesitated, glancing at Zoe before speaking. "There's something else I noticed while working on the power core. Some of the symbols, they don't just describe energy flow. They also reference navigation points, like coordinates." "Coordinates?" Laura asked sharply. "Where?" "I'm not sure yet," Mia admitted. "But if we can decode them, we might be able to track where the krill came from, or where they're going." Rachel stepped forward, her eyes lighting up with interest. "That could give us an edge. Knowing their origin point might help us predict their next move. And if we're really lucky, we might even find allies out there." "Allies?" Ethan scoffed. "You think other aliens are just going to jump in and save us? For all we know, the krill aren't the only ones hunting this fleet." "It's worth considering," Laura interjected firmly. "For now, let's focus on decoding those coordinates. Rachel, Marcus, see if you can make sense of them. Everyone else keep working on repairing and upgrading the ship. We can't afford to be caught off guard again." As the team dispersed to their tasks, Laura pulled Alex aside. She needed a moment to think clearly, away from the chaos of the command center. Together, they walked through the glowing corridors of the Leviathan, the hum of its systems providing a strange kind of comfort. "What are you thinking?" Alex asked quietly, sensing her unease. "I'm thinking we've bitten off more than we can chew," Laura admitted. "This wasn't supposed to happen. We came here to study ancient relics, not fight off alien invaders. How did things escalate so quickly?" Alex shrugged, though his expression was equally troubled. "Maybe it's because we underestimated the stakes. These ships aren't just old junk, they're valuable to someone. And now that we've claimed them, we've made ourselves targets." "That's the thing," Laura said, stopping to face him. "We didn't claim them, not really. We're barely scratching the surface of what this fleet is capable of. If the krill come back, and they will, we need to be ready. But how do we prepare for something we don't fully understand?" "We adapt," Alex replied simply. "That's what humans do best. We take what we have and make it work. Sure, we're outmatched right now, but every battle teaches us something. Every failure brings us closer to success." Laura smiled faintly, grateful for his optimism. "I hope you're right. Because if we fail..." She let the sentence hang, unfinished, but Alex understood. Failure meant extinction, not just for the crew but for humanity itself. Meanwhile, back on Earth, news of the krill attack spread like wildfire. Footage captured by drones aboard the Odyssey showed glimpses of the insectoid ships tearing through Europa's ice, their jagged designs striking fear into anyone who saw them. Public reaction ranged from panic to outrage, with many demanding answers and action from world leaders. At NASA headquarters, Ryan Mitchell watched the reports unfold with growing unease. Despite his earlier skepticism, even he couldn't deny the gravity of the situation. The krill weren't just a theoretical threat anymore. They were real, and they were dangerous. For the first time, Ryan found himself questioning whether dismissing the fleet had been a mistake. Emily Dawson seized the opportunity to push her agenda further. Standing before a panel of government officials, she argued passionately for immediate mobilization. "This isn't just about one ship or one team," she said, her voice steady but forceful. "It's about survival. The krill represent a level of technology and aggression we've never encountered before. If we don't act now, we risk losing everything." Her words struck a chord. Within hours, emergency meetings were convened across the globe, with military strategists, scientists, and politicians debating the best course of action. Some advocated for diplomacy, hoping to negotiate peace with the krill. Others pushed for outright militarization, urging humanity to seize control of the ancient fleet and use it as a weapon. Ultimately, compromise won out. Funding was approved, not only for the continued exploration of the Leviathan, but also for efforts to unlock the rest of the fleet buried beneath Europa's surface. Teams of engineers, pilots, and researchers were assembled, tasked with adapting human technology to interface with the alien ships. Ryan reluctantly joined the effort, his expertise deemed invaluable despite his initial resistance. "This changes nothing," he muttered to Emily during a briefing. "Even if we manage to get these ships working, there's no guarantee they'll be enough to stop whatever's coming." "Then we'll make them enough," Emily shot back. "Because sitting around waiting for the krill to show up again isn't an option." Back aboard the Leviathan, progress continued at a frenetic pace. Rachel and Marcus worked tirelessly to decode the mysterious coordinates, piecing together fragments of data from the ship's archives. Their breakthrough came late one night when Marcus identified a pattern in the symbols, a sequence that corresponded to specific star systems. "These aren't random points," he said excitedly, pointing to the map displayed on his tablet. "They're waypoints, routes used by whoever built this fleet. Look here." He highlighted a cluster of stars near the edge of the galaxy. "This matches the location of the black hole Rachel identified earlier. And these," he gestured to another section, "could lead to their homeworld. If we follow these routes, we might be able to trace their origins," Rachel added, "or at least figure out where the krill fit into all of this." Laura listened intently, her mind racing with possibilities. "If we can navigate using these waypoints, it could give us a tactical advantage. But we'd need to test the engines first. Make sure they can handle interstellar travel." "I'll prep the controls," Alex volunteered. "If anyone can fly this thing, it's me." With renewed determination, the team set to work preparing the Leviathan for its maiden voyage. Mia and Zoe focused on stabilizing the power core, ensuring it could sustain prolonged use without risking overload. Ethan and Daniel conducted final checks on the ship's defenses, reinforcing weak points and calibrating the weapon systems. Meanwhile, Laura maintained communication with Aegis, seeking guidance on navigating the unknown regions of space. "You must proceed with caution," Aegis warned. "The paths you seek are fraught with peril. Many have fallen attempting to traverse them." "We don't have a choice," Laura replied. "If we stay here, the krill will destroy us. If we run, they'll chase us. Our only option is to fight, and to do that, we need answers." Aegis fell silent for a moment before responding. "Very well. I will assist. Know this. The truth lies beyond the void. Seek it wisely." As preparations neared completion, tension mounted among the crew. They were about to embark on a journey into uncharted territory, facing dangers they could scarcely imagine. Yet, amidst the uncertainty, a sense of purpose emerged. They weren't just explorers anymore. They were defenders, protectors of humanity's fragile foothold in the cosmos. On the eve of their departure, Laura gathered the team in the command center for a final briefing. The holographic display showed their intended route, marked by glowing waypoints stretching across the stars. "This is it," she said, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "Tomorrow, We leave Europa behind and step into the unknown. Whatever happens out there, remember why we're doing this. We're not just fighting for ourselves, we're fighting for everyone back home. For Earth. One by one, the team nodded, their resolve hardening. They knew the odds were against them, but they also knew they couldn't turn back. The Krill had made that impossible. As the meeting ended, Alex lingered behind, watching Laura as she gazed at the star chart. "You okay?" he asked gently. She turned to him, forcing a small smile. "As okay as I can be. I just keep thinking about what's waiting for us out there. What if we're not ready?